this is Ben back with you in the Midwest Model Shop. In today's episode, we're going to be installing the Woody's Model Works Photo Etch bridge set for the Titanic. So basically this will be a step-by-step installation of that kit, and the results are pretty awesome. I didn't have access to the now complete instructions when I started this. I had some directions from Neil over there on what to do, and so I was following along with those, and then his step-by-step instructions are out. They're available now. They look absolutely fantastic. They're available on his website. Just go to the instruction tab up at the top and go to the sheet A and B instruction set, and those are it. They look really nice. Neil did a fantastic job, and this photo etch set turned out fantastic, and we're going to walk through that whole thing, that whole process on this episode today on my client's build. Also, I wanted to announce that we are going to be now selling styrene stern plates for the Titanic. So they're going to be just like the real thing, just like what goes on the back of the ship. They're not brass, but it's the same setup, and I don't have them up for sale this exact second, but they will be shortly, or they will be now, depending on when this video goes up. So make sure you go to themidwestmodelshop.com, where you guys have bought our cool t-shirts and mugs and our acetate window sets. We really appreciate that. Just keep an eye out there. It should be available very soon. And a special thank you to those individuals out there who helped us produce that set. You know who you are. All right, that's it. Without further ado, let's get into the build. All right, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We're back in action. I do apologize if I sound a little funny. I'm still under the weather, and according to the doctor, will be for quite some time because I have a nasty sinus infection. But the show must go on. So, pressing on with our bridge. So we're back on the client's build, and there are several things that we have to discuss and consider before moving on. Primarily that has to do with the A-deck pop bulkhead here, and then our leading edge here of the boat deck. And then also addressing the scaled decks deck that we've got up on top. So let's take a look at that. All right, so what we have here is for detail set sheet A, version 2 from Woody's Model Works. What you want to start off with right away is concerning yourself with these two pieces right down here. This is pieces A26. And the reason is the curved deck that we have right here. So if you recall from the previous video when prepping for this, we added 1 millimeter of material to this forward edge. And I want to point out, this is important, that when I put this on, I did not just use a 1 millimeter strip. I used two 0.5 millimeter strips. I put one on very carefully and tightly, and then I placed the second one on. And the reason that this is important is we've discovered that if you use a 0.1 millimeter strip, you might change the geometry of this curve a little bit because of physics and things I'm not going to go into. Just know that you might. And it will affect the shape, and that could be a problem because it can affect how well these pieces fit. So the first thing that we're going to do is remove these pieces and double check our fit on the bow. Okay, so here we are looking straight down. So these are our two, I think they're steps. I'll get the name. Neil calls them duckboards. But you want to make sure these are going to be added last, and they're going to fit perfectly up against the bulkhead here. And so it's really, really important that you figure out early on if they are in fact going to fit the bulkhead perfectly. So this, you can see mine line up. So you need to do this. This is an important step. Also, while we're up here, notice that we have holes here in the deck. Scaled decks left those on purpose so that you could put the kit bulkhead into position. Because we're going to be using brass photo etch, you'll have gaping holes there. So you need to fill these in and paint the hole to look like wood deck. That's an appropriate thing to do. All right, the next thing we're going to worry about here, I'm going to try and show this if I move like this. Trying to get you the most vertical look down as I can. I'll push it back just a little bit more. We are concerned with this leading edge being flush, perfectly straight up and down with the A-deck forward edge. This this deck here we want to run in. Mine looks pretty close, but we're looking straight down on it. We need to check this from the side to make sure our depth is correct. And so if we remove, because I suspect mine's a little proud, if we remove a little bit of this material here, that may affect the entire fit of this curve, and so we'll have to come back and double check all that. So that is really step one if you're following along with where I'm at here, is get these boards out, check the edge of your geometry of your 1mm addition, and then check that the front of this boat deck is parallel, perfectly straight up and down with the front of your A deck. All right, and then also while we're up here, this is where the kit supplied bridge goes. Drops down into position like so, and as you can see, the wood goes right up to the edge from the deck. So once again, if we want this top edge of the bridge to sit flush on top of the photo etch, we're going to need to make sure that this whole piece sits on the kit supplied deck. So we'll be putting this back into position. Use a pencil or whatever you want. Run a line around the edge. I'll just do a quick little mark. Whoop, scribbling all over the place. Got to fix that. Like so. I'll erase my little mess I made there. And we're going to take a knife and have to remove that material so that this sits down. So all that prep work is step one. Make sure you do that. All right, pressing on. Okay, this is worth noting. While we're up here and I've got this deck in place and I'm marking around it to remove my wooden deck, make sure you pay attention to the instructions. So what we'll see right here is we have to add piece B9 to the back right here. E48 and 47 go right there, and then importantly up here for the bridge, B17 and B18 go in place. And once they are down, that will also probably need to be adjusted for the wooden deck. So you don't necessarily need to glue those pieces in, but you might want to mark them out now, especially in the back right here. B9, this one is for sure we got to get rid of, and then I got to double check the ones up here in the front. These you can monkey with after the fact, because as you can see right here, they're super easy to get access to. All right, press on. Okay, so we've gone ahead and filled in our spots here. You'll notice that I did not end up removing any of the wood for the pieces to go up here in the forward part of the bridge, because I figured out I could just work it later. So I've gone ahead and mixed up some custom paint here to fill in our little spots that I've got. Looks like they might need to be a little bit more green, but we're going to go ahead and fill this in. And well, actually that looks pretty good, I guess. Fill this all in. So I am going to do this edge here also, and that will take care of that. So one of the things that I wanted to mention again, or show that I verified, is this edge right here. So I'm just going to use this little straight edge, and what we're doing is we're just making sure that that's straight up and down, but not just on the same plane, coplanar here and here. Don't forget about this wall and this wall. So I've laid it across like this, and as you can see from there, everything is still flush. So that's what you're checking. Make sure that this is flush, straight up and down, and you don't have issues. Because if this edge is proud or that edge proud, well, we'll have trouble. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get my paint touched up. We'll touch up. We'll get this whole little edge right around here done as well. And yeah, press on to the next part. Okay, back in action. So I got a little bit ahead of myself, and I didn't realize that when I added this strip of styrene here and here, that I didn't actually need to do that, because the kit part goes here, the kit bulkhead. But this strip of styrene that we added above, that I went on and on about making sure is flush with this, you do need. So what we have to do is modify the kit part. So here's our kit bridge, and if we move in a little bit on it here and take a look, what we need is this whole area. And you can see there's this nice little seam line right there. So the photo etch that we're going to be installing is from here up, and from here down we need this. So what we have to do is cut all of this off and salvage it. Let's do that. Okay, it's time to cut up this part and utilize it for our piece. So right away, one of the things that's difficult about this is we need to cut it on the line that you see right here, which means you need to cut it, kind of into this bridge wing right here. And yeah, that's going to be hard. So first thing I want to talk about is preservation and having a backup plan. If this doesn't work out for you, if you mess up this photo etch part, you're going to be in trouble. And it would be nice to utilize the kit piece. So we're going to work under an assumption here. We're going to assume that we can cut this bottom piece off just fine. And we're going to assume that this leading edge that's photo etched, that's a straight piece and on the Woody's Model Works kit, is easy, and you will definitely be able to install that. And worst case scenario is you mess up this curved piece and you end up needing the kit part. So there are several ways to cut this, but let's just start off with grabbing our snippers and doing this. Set this piece offside, don't lose it. All right, now we're back here. For those of you who have a table saw, this might be a good idea to go ahead and just cut off like these nubs on the back right here and tape it to a board and run it through your table saw so that you get rid of this piece of plastic and you get a nice, perfectly straight cut edge. What if you don't have a table saw? What if all you have is your snippers in this video? So come over here, right on this edge, and cut that off. This edge, and cut that off. All right, now you've got a line that you can score right along and cut through. It's a little bit difficult to get through on the back here. Another thing though is you could just take your snippers and very carefully stay proud of the line and cut this off. Because what you'll have is this edge right here, and all you got to do is come back with a sanding stick and sand down to that line right there. You can use a black one that's more aggressive, or your knife, and cut down. So whatever you got to do, we need to get this cut off. So let's go ahead and knock the rest of that out. Okay, so here's our piece, just roughly cut out. I cut it to the line, sanded it, no big deal. And fortunately, it fits. There's a little bit more clearance right above it than I thought there would be. So because I had not removed the scale deck area right underneath here, and I thought that might have been a problem, but it actually won't be. So just for purposes of showing stuff off, I'm going to just set this here like so for right now. And as you can see, it's proud of the A-deck forward deck here. That's fine, because as I mentioned like 10 times before, this plastic piece back here I need to remove. I'm not convinced I need to remove all of it. I have a feeling it's going to pop right out, and I'm going to be adding some shims, because we do want this to sit in such a way that the photo etch ends up sitting directly on top of it, flush, or at least as close to flush as we possibly can. So I've grabbed a piece, and there's two pieces to the photo etch. So what I mean, I just want to make sure I'm being clear. This is going to drop down and be like this, and then there's a second piece that's going to go in front of this, the actual front piece, and we'd like that to end up flush with the forward edge of that deck right there. Hopefully that makes sense. So what I'm going to do, obviously we got detail and stuff that, doors and windows and things that got to go on here, but we have to also make sure that it ends up in the right position. So I'm going to start out by removing these two little pieces that I put in and just checking to see how is my fit here in the first place to get it to a point where I can, be ready to install it and get it put into place. Okay. A little bit of a fit issue. It's a little bit tight, but it's pretty good. So I'd like it to, I've got a bow because I need to clean up this edge right here. This is canted in a little bit, I think. So, and that's not a problem. You could just snip this one tab off right here and it'll fit where you want. But we do want it to sit in here, and I think ideally have it exposed just like that. See how there's that little bit of an edge right there? And that should consume half. Well, that's almost actually perfectly flush. So I'd like to have just a little bit more. Or we could probably leave it, because then there would be this nice little line right where they transition from the two, and I think that would look good, because there is a line. There was a line on the kit. Let's take a look at some reference photos. Okay, so here's our piece, and I've attached a little piece of styrene sprue to both sides to bump it out a little bit, and just rough fit, dropped it into place. And then this little fun piece of photo etch, sorry about the picture quality here, it's just two pieces of PE off the same sheet that we're going to be installing. And if I drop it onto here, you can see that, hopefully you can see that, whatever, it's flush. That's the point. That's our spacing that we need right there, and that's how I figured it out. So it should work out. There will be a line. As far as I could tell from photographs, reference photographs, this was flush, but there is a seam there where the two pieces of metal came together. So this is going to work out nicely. So now we just need to put our detail on the front of the B-deck bulkhead here. A couple doors, some picture frames, some windows, glue it up, paint it up, get it into position. And then that's great, because with it sitting there, we'll have this nice ledge that will help aid in setting this piece down and getting everything put where we want it. In fact, while I am here, I want to reference something here. I might need to do just a little bit more sanding, because, let me zoom in, I think you can see that there, we're a little high. This needs to come down just the slightest bit, and it's even on both ends. Almost the width, almost the height of a scaled deck thickness there. How about that? Who would have thought? All right, so make this adjustment. We're going to sand this piece down just a little bit more so that this comes down, sits flush. It's a good check. All right, pressing on. Okay, here's the installed bulkhead, window frames, doors, glass behind it. I apologize, when I tried to film showing and installing it, I accidentally blocked the view with my hands. Okay, you can see that there's a gap right along here, and that works out just fine. When we drop our photo etch on, it rests perfectly on top, and as you can see, the corner over here lines up exactly how we want. So it's important that you go ahead and measure all this stuff out and test and fit and check and make sure everything lines up. All right, so now we can press on to the big photo etch pieces. Okay, let's start out with our first piece right here, and this is the inside piece of the bridge. This is what you would see from the interior looking out. So similar to the last video that we did, there's several things you need to start off by doing. So on the front edge here, this surface all along here and this surface all along here are going to glue to the ship. This will be the edge of the boat deck, and this will be the edge of a deck. So we want to go ahead and score that edge, which is what I've already done right here. Conversely, if we flip the piece over, I've gone ahead and scratched up the whole back already, because this will be glued to the front piece. With the exception of along here, these window frames, right in between, you don't want to scratch them up because they'll show through. If you want to do a little bit of scoring along the top edge there, that is fine. And then also right here, these stanchions get turned in. Let's not scratch those up either. So that's the first step, is to get these scored up. Here's the next step. There are pieces that get glued in a position here, and I like to use CA glue. However, we're going to be putting a bend in this section of the photo etch on both sides. So we need to anneal it now so that it's soft and malleable. Then we'll go ahead and glue our pieces on, because if we glue our pieces on with CA glue and then try to anneal this, there's a good chance the heat will be enough to cause the CA glue to release and your parts will fall off. So anneal this first. Alright, because this is a larger piece of photo etch, we're going to use our super intense high-tech torch here. This flame, I think, is around 1200 degrees Fahrenheit. So this will work for annealing our piece. And we're simply just going to target this area. It's okay if the whole thing's annealed, but let's focus on the area where the bend is going to be. And as you can see, the brass is already starting to change colors. And I like to get basically a good shift in the color. See how it went real dark purple right there? Some people might say this is too much. As long as you don't melt the brass, right? And what we're doing is just getting the molecules to loosen up and change their orientation so that they're nice and malleable. That's the look that we're going for. And then we'll come over here to this side and do the same thing. Okay, that should take care of it. Okay, now we could go ahead and install these photo etch pieces here, numbered A18. And there's just a series of 9 of them that run across. I think they're like weather hatches that would flip up like this to cover the window in case anything, in case they actually ran into some real serious weather on the North Atlantic. And I could be totally wrong. These could actually be just, little round flat screen TVs so that they could get all their satellite channels on. You could watch 9 different channels at a time. That's probably what these are for. I'll check my references to double check that. But anyway, you want to go ahead. Now it's okay, since we've annealed everything, to go ahead and get these installed. So we'll finish that up. Okay, then the next thing you get to do is install these really nice, really cool interior frames around these windows. And there's 6 of them total. I did a little scoring on the back. They're heavy duty, really nice. And they look like that. Okay, so now this piece is basically ready to go. And this is where things get complicated. So the instructions will tell you to go ahead at this point, flip this over, and glue the front facing pieces on. The thing is, I want to put acetate in between these windows. And I cut a little piece of transparency, and I think it'll sandwich right in between here without too much trouble, without affecting the thickness much, and we'll be good to go. But I need to paint it. So that means I need to get the next piece out and ready to go right here and kind of get the shape right and paint them both up so that we can then glue them together with the window in between. So before we do that, though, I thought the next thing would be to try and get the shape of this curve correct. And it would be nice, you could hold it up to the hull and squish it on, but it would be really nice if there was a way to do this in your hands. Fortunately, if you recall earlier, I said hang on to this thing in case you need it, and we do need it. We need it right now. So this is the face, and the detail is on this side, so we're going to flip it over, have our scored side be out in the front, line it up, and I'm going to use this to start my initial shaping of the piece. That's good. What we need to do though is get the next piece out. I got to figure out how am I going to put this on. So another thought that I had was paint all this up and glue it to the ship. And I might actually do that. And then we'll just glue the next piece to it. And that could work out extremely well. So, maybe we'll do that. Let me think on this for a second. Okay, so it was no big deal. I just bent these and they're holding the shape just like we want. They're really, really close. I went ahead and applied some tape to this edge and masked off the area that we don't want painted because we want the bare metal to glue to the ship. I have decided that what I'm going to do is paint this up and glue it to the ship. Even though the instructions say right now that this is bent, I should put the front on. The reason that I want to do this, well, actually, I guess I could go ahead and just paint this up, and I could bend the front piece and glue it on, painted also, and then put the window in between. That's what I want to do. I want to be able to put the window in between. So regardless, the next steps are going to be, we will have to bend these little stanchions to 90 degrees, and then these parts back here, they get bent in like this to 90, and then the next one goes one more to 90 like that. And you're going to do that on both sides. Then we got to paint the inside of all of this. So I'm going to do that right now because even though it would be easier to paint if it was all unfolded, I guess I'm a little concerned about the paint flexing and going all over the place. So that takes care of that. And then these, I think we got one more bend on here. This goes like this. And this one goes like this. Okay, and then I haven't done those yet. We'll worry about that after I get it glued on. I think what I might do, man, I'm talking out loud here. Let's get this painted up. Let's get this primed up and painted, and then we'll talk about attaching the front to it. So it occurred to me, if I'm going to do this, that these four exterior parts, because there's two on the other side, they might as well get installed right now as well, because they won't be moving anymore, and they'll add a little rigidity to this whole setup. So there's nothing wrong with installing them right now. And we'll just start by going right into that back corner. Dropping it down flush. And there we go. Looks real nice. Now, on this piece in particular, hopefully you can see that we have stanchions that get installed there. I'm going to worry about putting them in later. That way I can still handle things without much trouble. They'll be easy to glue into place with some CA glue. Okay, and here, this is the starboard side edge to the little wing. Drop into place. Real nice detail. Okay, so now we just have, we gotta do that again over here. And then all we have to worry about is this face piece. Okay, I'm almost ready to paint for real, I swear. I forgot to mention, don't forget to add these corner pieces, A5 and 11 also before you're ready to go. So just before I get to painting and messing things up, I was doing a quick dry fit. This thing drops onto here like so and goes like this. I think I'm having a little trouble right here in this corner. You can see that white little edge right there. Now, I didn't add that, and I was told not to put anything there. I don't think I added that. And there's actually a little bit of a gap right here on the scale deck's deck, so I have just a little bit of extra styrene here. So I'm going to have to trim this off on both sides, But that's worth checking out before you paint, so that this little edge fits in here the way that you want it to, and clears, and everything fits real tight. This is a little wide right now, so I'm going to clean that up. Just double check that fit before you get to painting, because once this is painted, we want to be able to, you know, just drop it into position and have it be glued up and look real nice. So that's my tip there before you press on. So make sure you check that. Okay, back in action here. I want to point out a couple of very important things. On the edge of these wing parts, I guess, I forget what they call it, the bridge, I had originally added just 0.5 millimeter strips, and I think I was thinking about the overall width of the boat deck here, and you actually need to have a total of 1 millimeter added, just like we added the front. So between here and now, I added another 0.5 mil to bring this out, and it fits right. Also, I mixed up a more green version of the paint and touched up that area that I had done before in an effort to get the paint to better match up. So that took care of a bunch of things right there. So now what I want to do is figure out how to show you how to attach this bridge, or how I'm going to do it. So here's our painted piece. I've removed the tape, and so that's going to be our glue point. I have also put paint on the front of this because a little bit of the inside of this frame shows. The rest of this is going to be glued onto. I have pre-fitted this several times, and I think my thought process is going to be to put glue along this face edge on the bottom and just this face edge right here on the top. Those are parallel surfaces, and I could drop this down and get it into position right away and straight and lined up, and I can attach the front. And this actually fits, I'm looking up here from the back, really well. It goes right into position exactly how we want, seated right there. Let me show you that angle. Okay, so from right here you can see that it's lined up perfectly. So that'll be good. We could get our glue on, and I think we can lean it into position like that and work on this forward edge down here on A deck. Make sure that's solid, and then that will allow us the ability to come back up here and add glue to the wings and slowly work them into position and make sure we're satisfied with how they fit. So that's what I'm going to attempt to do. Okay, I think we'll start off with just putting a bead of CA glue, not too heavy, along my glue point here. And then just directly underneath the windows. All right. Getting left to right. Oh man, it's starting to stick. That's not quite where I wanted it to go. Okay, that's pretty good. So an option that might have been better is to use this E6000 glue. Neil recommends that in instructions. I do too. That would have given us a little bit more flexibility in terms of time to get this locked in, but feel like trying to decide if I regret this decision or not. Okay, I do regret this decision, and I'll show you why. Crooked. Now, what is crooked exactly? The bottom piece is not crooked. It would be that my top piece needs to go to the left a little bit here. So I need a better. So this would be the advantage of gluing the face piece onto this whole thing ahead of time, because it would provide a little bit more rigidity with this going in a position. And you know, I might actually be able to do it because we could leave the wings loose and I could glue them down after the fact. So following instructions is probably a good idea here. All right, let me go ahead and pop this off. Okay, I am stubborn. I'm going to try it again with my CA glue. And this is because I want to make it work, and this might be also to strongly encourage you all to not use CA glue for this process. We'll see. All right, I've straightened my piece out. Okay. There we go. I apologize. I know my fingers are in the way. So maybe putting a little E6000 on evenly across here and then just spotting it with CA glue would have been a better choice. All right, our ends line up, top and bottom here. We've made it out to the edge. We've got a nice even space on our B-deck bulkhead. This is centered. This window is centered. The center windows line up with our center pinnacle position there, or whatever that part's called. I think it's probably the compass. Okay, so now let's change your angle. Now the idea is going to be to work in this piece like this, work the CA glue around to where we want it to go. It's a little tight in this corner here. I think I might need to adjust the my edge of the styrene a little bit so that this sits how we want, because we want this to end up nice and flush sitting here. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to work the edge of this styrene right there in that corner a little bit more and work this. I'm going to put a little bit of CA glue in that corner and push in, let it sit, and I'm just going to work my way around until it folds in nice and taut like that. I'm going to do that on both sides. You guys know what I'm talking about. I don't want to spend all this time on camera trying to fiddle with it. So let me get that set up and we'll come back to you. Okay, so this wasn't so bad. It went on, not too much fuss. Little things to touch up here and there, and you're going to have to do the same thing. So now we're about ready to slap our piece of glass onto the front right here, and then we'll concern ourselves with the painting up. I gotta paint it. I haven't done it yet. Painting up and fixing the front piece on. An initial check here. Let's take a look on the side. We'll grab our plastic piece and drop it in, and roof fits just right. That's exactly what we're looking for right there. So, yeah, I'd say we're off to the races now. So the next thing, like I said, let's get the glass on and paint up and get the front piece installed here. Okay, in an effort to get the cleanest look I can, I cut a brand new piece of transparency. I wore gloves and stick it into place like that. Okay, that should work just fine. We'll sandwich it into the the next piece of photo etch that goes on the front. All right, let's let that dry up. Press it on. Okay, back in action. Time to get the face piece removed. This really cool little rail does get installed onto the front piece of the A-deck bulwark right here. So what I think I'm going to do is we'll pull this whole thing out. I'll anneal these two edges, then I'll anneal them, and shape them, get them roughly shaped, and then we'll glue this piece on so we can paint it. But first, remember to flip it over and take your sanding stick and score this whole edge while it's nice and flat. I guess you could score the backs of the little stanchions, that doesn't really matter, but the rest of this all needs to be scratched up here before you pull it out. All right, press it on. Okay, this I'll try and do on camera. I've got this edge little piece cut out. I've got my crummy little piece of cardboard with a bit of CA glue in it, and I've got my piece. I find that it's easiest to use tweezers, and then I just bent it, so you don't want to do that. But if you bend it, it's okay. You just do a little bit at a time here. So what we'll do is place a little bit in the CA and come down here to the end. And put those in there's little holes where this thing sits. So you've got your positive contact points. And then we'll just have to work our way, we'll just have to work our way along until that's installed. Okay, there's that little rail along the edge. It looks really nice installed, and that's it. So I'm going to let this set up for a minute and go ahead and prime it, get some white paint on it, and then we'll move on to the installation. Alright, while that paint's drying on the front piece, I went ahead and installed the two different types of stanchions on the back sides of these bulwarks here. And I've left them unpainted so that you can see what they look like. They might disappear a little bit when I throw some paint on, but I elected to do this now and not earlier because of all the handling that we're going to do. There's a railing that goes on top of here, and on both sides of these wings there's like a little frame that drops down right in here and on this side. And I was going to pull those out and get them ready to go, but I realized that I'm probably still going to be sticking my fingers in here like this to attach our forward part of the bridge. So I'm going to wait. Some strategic planning there. Once this piece is on and we're done, then I'll go ahead and reach in here and set these things up. So anyway, I wanted you to see these parts. You just glue them and put them on like I've done in previous videos, so I apologize for those of you who enjoy watching me assemble those things. But they're there, and then we'll mess with the railing and everything once we get our face piece installed. So that's all I have to do for now. Pressing on. Okay, for our next trick while the paint's setting up is we have the teak step that we discussed earlier in the video. So this is part A26. So you're supposed to build this subassembly before you attach it to the whole ship, and you want to grab these stanchions, part A22, and they have these little steps placed on them right there. And then if you look at your stanchion or your step, you've got a little inset and a hole, and then here you have just the inset. So these steps go just where the inset is at. So what we're going to do, make sure you determine the right side up. So this is the port piece, and the curved edge goes to the outside. So what I'm going to do is grab a little bit of CA glue. I'm going to go to this slot here in the middle on the bottom and put some glue right here, because I don't know if you'll see this when you're done or not. Am I in the shot? Yes. Drop our little piece in, or try to. Now this is going to be tricky All right, that worked. It's going to be tricky because I need to get it perpendicular to the plane of the step. That's important. And we want it going straight up and down. I think that's good. Okay, so you end up with that. And we want to do that again in each of these spots. All right, having fresh CA glue, again, very helpful, or you could try the accelerator trick where you drop a little accelerator, paint it on the brass first, so then when you attach your piece, you're set to go. Okay, so we'll continue that throughout. Then I think the tricky one is going to be putting the stanchion in that goes in the slot and through that hole there, because we need them to stop with it sitting on the ground, right? So yeah, that's going to be a trick. Let me go ahead and get a couple more in here. Okay, super cool here. I think you guys can all see that it sits up by itself on just these 4 little pieces. So yeah, very cool. All right, so now we got to cut out pieces A23 and drop them in to position. And A23, let's take a look here, are these pieces, and they don't go all the way through to the ground, just the little thin part does. So this, yeah, I'm just going to have to cut that out and put a little CA glue probably on the bottom of the hole and drop this through. Another option might be, because it's so clean, to maybe install these on the ship once it's in place, but that makes painting this pretty difficult. It would be nice to just kind of paint all this ahead of time, because I checked, this is supposed to be teak, and as far as I can tell in the reference photos, it is teak. And then our stanchions and stays and the feet and all that, they're white. So yeah, let me see how this fits. Okay, check this out. The tolerances are so good or loose, you could totally drop this in here and just be done with it. Like, if this was installed in the ship, I think you could drop this stanchion into position just like that. No trouble at all. After paint, and it'd probably be fine. So, but the instructions recommend doing this all ahead of time. I think that's probably a pretty good idea. So I think what I'm going to do here is put a little bit of CA glue on the bottom side of this, and then drop it in place and hold it and see if that works. So let's give that a shot. All right, I'm going to put a dab of CA glue here and here as best as I can. Try and get to fill that space. Grab my stanchion. I check it as best I can. Looks plumb. All right, just like that. So let me go ahead and put the rest in. All right, so what those parts are for and why I was fussing around earlier about how those fit is they go right here. And so this is the one on the port side, and it drops down like so. And these stanchions, I know you can't see it in this angle, but they line up with the photo etch part, the bolted on part of the bulkhead right here perfectly. So that's why we wanted to get this curve to match correctly. Now for the starboard side, I went ahead and just installed the vertical pieces that it stands on. I wanted to pick it up and drop it into position over here, like that. Let's see here. So that's how it fits, which is pretty good. I think that I'll come back in after this one's installed, like this, and I'll bring my other stanchions in. I'll drop them in after the fact. I'm going to try that, just for everybody's sake here. And then it looks like my fit was not perfect. I should have come in more right in this area right here, middle. I should have shaved off a little bit more of my plastic to bring this in just a little bit more. That would have helped me with my fit on the outside here. I'm just a little bit shy, turns out, which is a little bit of a bummer. But that's the way this goes. It's a trial and error thing. We want to try and get that piece to fit up here as snugly as we possibly can. So I'll paint these up, and we'll finish installing these stanchions on the starboard side after fact, and I'll let you know which. I'll give you my opinion on what I think is better. Okay, one more thing on alignment. So when I was monkeying with this, I'm like, I thought I really did get it to fit perfectly, and as you can see, it's sitting right there. It does fit perfectly. I have a perfect S. But if you look, I think I'm zoomed in all the way. Yeah, there you go. You can see my stanchions do not line up. See how they're just to the right of where they should be? So the mistake that I made is I did not realize that this piece needs to be right here, lined up with this bulkhead right here before you start. Actually, it should be just to the right of it, I think. No, we want to be to the left. So we want this vertical stanchion here, and then we want our piece on it like that. So had I known that, I would have made an adjustment to this fit. See, we've got that little gap there. So I could still put this just to the right of it, and I'll have a perfect fit, like so. And I may do that only because I think it's more important to have this perfect fit along this edge when one looks down on the model than it is to have the stanchion line up perfectly with the part right there. Because now that I've made this error, it's too late to go back, but I need to make the best looking fit for the model, and I think it's best that this board fits up flush to the bulkhead than it does lining up with the stanchions. But anyway, for your reference in the future, maybe put this thing up here and mark where this edge is so that you can then go ahead in the beginning and lay your teak board down, your teak step, and get the shape, the profile shape correctly. Because I was off, by like a mil, and it would have been perfect. So a mil inboard, like just shaving a little bit off, the tiniest little bit. Anyway, I hope that makes sense. Pressing on. Okay, so now we're back in the thick of things. I've gone ahead and painted up the front. It's white, and so it's got to go on. And so some considerations. First of all, hopefully you'll be able to see this well. I did put my glass on here, so that has added a little thickness to the window frame area that will have to be taken into consideration. So this is going to fit, like this, and there's going to be a little bit of gap and things that we'll have to work out up here that normally you wouldn't have to deal with. So I'm thinking about how do I want to attach this so that I can work it in a position. The other thing is once it's on here like this, I'm going to want to apply CA glue down here and nicely work it around this curve. But I don't want it springing off of the front here. I need it to be fairly secure. But if I mess up alignment and things, I want to be able to work the bottom. So what I think I'm going to do is apply E6000, this glue, to the bottom bulkhead here, because I'll have time to peel this off and monkey with it if I screw it up. and I want to apply CA glue to... Okay, I'm really sorry. I don't know. The camera battery died there, so we got to move quick here. Let's try and get this on. We're going to start by focusing on lining up the top. Make sure our height's right. Yes. And it looks centered, just how we want. So, okay, so I've pressed the CA glue down here, and I apologize if in the last cut the camera cut out. So the CA glue here, and then we've got this E6000 glue right along the bottom here for this bulkhead, because if I messed up, I'd be able to come back in here and do something about it. All right, so up at the top, it's not glued together obviously at all, but I'll be able to put a little bit of CA glue up here and pinch this together, and hopefully we won't have any issues with our marks right there. All right, I got a little CA glue on my knife blade, and I'm going back along here where there's this little gap, and we'll very carefully pinch these two parts together just to lock this in. Gotta be careful because we have this nice little rail detail on the top here that we don't want to damage. And along here, it fits nice over here on the starboard side. Okay, so I'm happy with that. Now the trick is going to be gluing this in, and it fits really well. When I push this down, the bend's really close. I like how everything's lining up nicely. I'm very pleased with that. So we'll just go ahead and get our CA glue plopped down in here. I'm just applying a nice even pressure to the radius. And see how I'm using both fingers? This is why I didn't want to put that teak step and all those stanchions in the back here yet, so that I could press this into position like so. Okay, so now we got to do that again over here, starboard side. Okay, that's real nice. All right, here we go. Let's take a quick initial look there. That's your bridge installed. Just like so, basically. We got some other stuff to do, but it's in place. I'm going to go ahead and tack along this top edge here. Let me give you a different angle. Here you can see the gap, so I'm going to have to put a little CA glue on the top here and pinch that, and that will solve that issue. So we'll do that, and then we'll put in the rest of our little details here, and we'll get the back painted up, and we'll be ready to go. Pressing on. Okay, so here's my little teak step. This is obviously the port side. I painted it teak because that's what it said it was, and it's a step, and it dropped in just fine. There's a railing for the KA kit that goes up on top of here, but I just wanted to get it kind of dropped into position here. Now we're going to do the starboard side. Now this is the one that I said I was going to wait to put the other stanchions in, because I think I could do it more easily once it's in place like that, and that fits pretty good. All right, so that's what it looks like, which is nice. But let's see about putting those stanchions in now on the port side or starboard side. Okay, these have not been painted yet, which I might come to regret. But that one dropped right in, no troubles. Looks nice. It's up tight against the bulwark. Next one. There we go. So I'm installing it by, well, you'll see on the next one. Okay, so I'm going to start by putting it in that little hole and then bump it up to the key like that. All right, up that one like so. Double check that's up and down right. We got one more to go. Okay, as I suspected, that was a lot easier than pre-installing it. Now, I might come to regret this decision when I go to paint it, but yeah, that worked out nicely. So either way works, depending on, I guess, what you feel like doing. I mean, the results are basically the same. So there it is installed. So like I said, I just got to come back and touch up this white. Then the last thing to install is there's a provided railing that goes on right here. And then that, I think, will wrap up the stuff that you get from Woody's Model Works as far as the PE. I will mention, I think this is part A13, this bridge piece here. I've installed it on both sides already. I had problems. Mine was just a hair too wide. It's totally my fault. It has to do with the dimensioning of these two walls. I just cut it in half and overlapped it so that it would drop into position. I've got the little kit provided part roofs that go on this ready to go. But yeah, I just want to mention that. So that's that. So let me touch up this paint here and then we'll do the railing. Okay, we've got this really nice piece of photo etch. That's the hand railing that drops on right here. As you can see, there's like a forked end. Really nice detail. And there's a nice little cutout. It's supposed to drop in and fit precisely like this, and it does. And then that forked end straddles your photo etch down there. Unfortunately, I don't think it's going to work. I think this ends up, the two pieces ends up being just a little bit too wide. And it's so tiny. I mean, we're not going to miss it. So I'm going to go ahead and snip it off. And if you could get to work, that's amazing, but I don't think this is going to be the worst detail. It's killer that it was included, and that the modeling is done there. I guess I don't have the skills to make that piece work the way that I would like to. So we'll just put some CA glue down right there, and you could probably pre-paint this. That's probably a really good idea, unlike what I'm doing, but you'll see what's going on here. And just drop into position. There we go. Real nice. Maybe I should have painted it. It would show up better. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and put the other one in, and then we'll get some brown paint on this. Okay, so this concludes the photo etch portion of the bridge set that you can get by Woody's Model Works. This is the detail. I'm going to try and do this without causing too many issues here. But I think you can see that it looks really nice when you're all said and done. A lot of this will get, I don't want to say covered up, but you know, you're going to have to get really close to examine it. So that looks good, and that's basically what you're installing there. So let's go ahead now and do a couple of the extra things. Okay, so the kit roofs, this is my messy CA. The kit provides the roofs that go over the tops of these parts right here. So I'm just going to grab some CA glue and we'll get that installed. Like that. Looks good. There's a little detail that goes on the top of both of these. I'm going to worry about that at the end of the build, because if I put them on right now, as I continue to build and reach around, we have to work with the bridge piece and everything. Ultimately, I'm just going to knock it off. It's going to disappear somewhere for eternity, and that would be bad. So we'll wait until the end to put that piece on. Like so. Okay. So that looks good. So now we've got a little bit more of a complete bridge look. Now I know that, I apologize about the focus there. There's the little lights go on the side here. We have those details for the KA kits. I'm going to worry about that, I think, later. The other thing that's included is there's railing. It goes on the top right here, and I think along this edge in here that comes out of the KA kit. I don't know if that profile is going to match, but we'll take a quick look and see. Okay, so it looks like not too bad. These are a little bit wider maybe than I would have expected, but this actually is the right width for the kit part in terms of scale thickness. You know, it would sit on there. So yeah, looks good. They'll involve a little work, and we'll get the railing on. So anyway, these profiles, this is the KA part, just so you know, they will work. One more thing I wanted to show you. Here's our next piece. The bridge and officers' quarters and everything here part, it drops right on. No problem. Looks really nice. I wanted to change the angle here so you guys can get a good look at it. But this is going to look really sweet when we're done. So at this point, it's time to clean up all the little details, put the railing on, and then when we come back next time, we're going to work on the pinnacles and the speed. I'm going to learn all these words, but the little telegraph machines that send the speed and the ship's wheels and all that stuff, and work on basically moving aft, right? So we need to kind of continue our journey this way and get these parts wrapped up and the heavy pieces installed so we can get working on the details and all the really cool sub-assemblies. But anyway, that takes care of it. This is the Photo Etch brass bridge and A-deck bulkhead from Woody's Model Works version 2 installed. I hope that this made sense. The instructions are available on his website. And yeah, that's it. Put your comments down below about anything you want to say. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you very much. We really appreciate everybody's support on this channel. It helps us to continue to be able to do these builds and make cool videos. All right, we'll see you guys next time.